All right, so get this. You ready to dive into the linguistic melting pot of Belize? We're talking about a place where you can walk down the street and hear Spanish Creole, even a little Mayan, and that's all before lunch.
It's really incredible.
It is. And you sent over some fascinating articles and notes about the languages spoken in Belize. So let's unpack some of the coolest stuff.
Sounds great.
Let's start with Kriol. It's spoken by about a third of Belizeans.
Okay.
It's not just some dialect of English. It's really like this secret code that unlocks another side of Belizean culture.
Yeah, what's interesting about Creole is that it's not just like broken English or something, It has its own grammar, its own vocabulary. It even has its own distinct rhythm.
It does. I remember reading that it developed from the interactions between enslaved Africans and European colonizers back in the day.
It's true, and it really shows the resilience of those early Belizeans.
They created this whole new way to communicate. And you know what else?
What's that?
They switched between Creole and English, depending on who they're talking to and what they're talking about. It's like, imagine greeting a friend with "Where do you go hon?" in Creole, but then smoothly saying, "Good morning, how are you?" in English in a more formal setting.
Yeah, that's called code switching, and it's a really cool skill.
I can barely handle one language, let alone two.
Well, it really reflects how adaptable language is.
That's incredible. Okay, so speaking of languages that reflect Belize's history, what about Spanish?
Right, well, that's no surprise, right? I mean, Belize is in Central America.
Yeah, you got Mexico right there.
Exactly. And there was a huge migration of mestizo people, people of mixed indigenous and European descent from Mexico way back in the early 1800s.
Hello.
So that added another layer to the mix.
And then there's kitchen Spanish, right?
Yes.
I read about
It's like the simpler version of Spanish.
So now I'm picturing myself in Belize in the bustling market
Yeah.
and hearing Creole Spanish. And wait a minute, is that German?
You're not imagining things you might actually hear German in some parts of Belize. Seriously.
Yeah, especially a dialect called Plautdietsch.
Plautdietsch.
Belize has Mennonite communities, and they mainly speak Plautdietsch.
Interesting.
It's a lot like Pennsylvania Dutch. You know, what the Amish communities speak in the U.S.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there's a connection I never would have guessed.
It just shows how diverse Belize is.
It does.
And just like many others in Belize, these Mennonites also speak English.
Oh, so they can interact with everyone else.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this mix of languages that came from colonization, from migration. But there's going to be more to it, right?
There's a whole other layer that goes way back, the Mayan languages.
Ah, yes, the Maya with their pyramids and ancient cities. Are you saying that their languages are still spoken today in Belize?
Absolutely. The descendants of the Maya are still a big part of Belizean culture, and they speak three main dialects: Quechua-Mopan and Yucatec.
Yeah.
Can you imagine speaking a language that has roots that go back thousands of years?
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so let's dive into these Mayan languages. What can you tell me? Yeah, it really blows my mind that these languages are still around, after all this time.
I know, it's amazing. Okay, so we've got Quechua-Mopan and Yucatec. What about Quechua?
Well, Quechua is the most commonly spoken Mayan language in Belize these days. You'll mostly hear it in the Toledo district. It's like a really traditional area. You can still see the ruins of old villages and ceremonial sites there.
Wow. So you're hearing a language that's been spoken in that same spot for like centuries.
Exactly. And to the Quechua people, their language is a really important part of their culture,
I can imagine.
It connects them to their past and to their land.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what about Mopan?
Well, Mopan is mostly spoken in the Cayo district. That's where a lot of the rainforests and Maya ruins are.
Oh.
So picture yourself exploring ancient temples and hearing Mopan echoing around you.
Okay, that's an experience I would love to have.
It's something else. And Mopan is actually really closely related to Yucatec, the Mayan language spoken in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula.
So there's a connection that goes beyond the border.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like a linguistic bridge.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so last but not least, we've got Yucatec. You mentioned that it's not spoken as much in Belize anymore.
Unfortunately, that's true.
Oh.
Yeah, the number of people who speak it has been going down.
That's sad.
Yeah, but there are people working hard to try to keep the language alive.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, it's a reminder that languages are really valuable.
Absolutely. And one thing that I thought was super cool was that many Mayan people in Belize are bilingual.
Oh, yeah.
They speak English or Spanish as well as their native Mayan dialects.
Right.
That's really impressive.
It is. It shows how resourceful they are. They can communicate in different cultural settings.
Yeah, it's like they have these different keys to unlock different worlds.
I like that a lot. Now, before we move on from the Maya, There's something else we should talk about, the Garifuna language. It's only spoken by a small group of Belizeans, but it has a really interesting story.
Yeah, I was really curious about this one. It's not every day that you hear about a language that mixes indigenous Caribbean and West African influences.
It's a really unique blend.
It is, so tell me about it.
Well, the Garifuna people have this amazing history. You see, their ancestors were slaves who were shipwrecked, and they ended up intermarrying with the indigenous Arawak people in the Caribbean.
Wow.
Eventually, they were exiled to Central America, including Belize, and they brought their language and culture with them.
So their language is like a reflection of their journey.
Exactly. It's this beautiful blend of different cultures, and the Garifuna people don't just speak their language. They sing it, they dance it, they use it to tell their stories.
Wow. So it's more than just words. It's part of who they are.
You got it. In fact, UNESCO even recognized the Garifuna language, music, and dance as a masterpiece of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity.
That's a pretty big honor.
It is. It shows how important it is to protect languages and traditions.
I agree. You know, talking about all these different languages has really made me realize how much they tell us about Belize.
Me too.
It's like each language is a clue to understanding the country's history, its people, its soul.
That's a great way to put it.
And it makes me wonder, what's it like to actually live in Belize, where you hear all these different languages everywhere you go?
I bet it would be such a cool experience.
I think so, too. It'd be a constant reminder of just how amazing diversity is.
Absolutely. And, it makes me want to visit Belize even more.
Me too. Before you book your flight, though, there are a couple more things we should cover about Belize's languages.
Oh, there's more?
Yeah, tell me about it. So what else is there?
Well, you know how we've been talking about the languages that came from colonization and migration? And the ancient Mayan languages?
Yeah.
There are actually a couple more languages that add to this whole mix.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Get this. You might even hear Chinese spoken in Belize.
Wait, Chinese? Really?
I know, right? It's amazing how languages end up in the most unexpected places.
It is.
And the Chinese community in Belize has a long history there, A lot of them came over as laborers in the late 1800s, but they were super entrepreneurial.
Yeah, wow.
And they became really successful business owners.
So they had a big impact on Belize.
Definitely, not just in terms of language, but also in the economy, too.
That's incredible. So we've got Chinese, and what was the other language you mentioned?
The other one is Arabic.
Arabic?
Yeah, mostly spoken by people of Lebanese descent.
Ah.
They also have a really interesting history in Belize.
Okay, so let me get this straight.
Huh.
We've got Chinese, Arabic, Kriol, Spanish, German, different Mayan languages, and English.
You got it.
Wow, it's mind-blowing that all these languages are spoken in one small country.
It really is. It just shows how diverse Belize is.
You know, it's making me think differently about what a country really is.
How so?
It's not just about lines on a map, It's about the mix of people and languages and their stories.
That's beautiful. I really like that. And Belize is a perfect example of that idea.
I think so, too.
It's a reminder that the world is full of different cultures and connections.
And language is what brings it all together.
Exactly.
I wonder what it'd be like to grow up surrounded by so many different languages.
That's a great question. It would be such an eye-opening experience, right?
I think so.
It would give you so many different perspectives on the world.
I bet after doing this deep dive, I'm feeling inspired to learn more about these languages.
Me too. Maybe even learn a few phrases.
That'd be fun. You know what? We should encourage everyone listening to do the same.
That's a great idea.
Dive into these languages.
Learn about their history.
It's a celebration of communication.
I love it.
So there you have it. Belize, a country where you can hear ancient Mayan languages mixing with the sounds of Kriol.
Where Spanish meets Garifuna melodies?
And where you might even catch snippets of Chinese and Arabic.
It's incredible.
It really is. It's a reminder that language has this amazing power to connect us all.
To shape who we are.
And to make the world a much more vibrant place. And that's a wrap on our deep dives into the languages of Belize.
We hope you enjoyed it.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep listening to the amazing world of languages around you.